Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. The star of today's product review is the wall system with integrated desk FreeHand 13. We can use multiple terms to define what this collection represents. We can say it's a high-end collection. We can say it's a design piece. We can say it has vintage traits, but especially it is very rich with details. So how is it built? The system through which it is built is called in Italian a bussolotto. It means with cabinets. So we have cabinets hanging to the wall. They could be resting on the ground. We have wall cabinets, and we have independent cabinets which are placed on top of each other or one beside the other. And if I want, I can complete this look with panels, with boiseries that cover the walls. This is different from a different system, which is called in Italian a spalla, which is the system where you build a wall system with vertical partitions. This is very flexible. For example, it can be custom made by the centimeter, but it has, of course, standard modules, and these standard measures go by a module of 16 centimeters. And for example, this composition here in the showroom, this is a review of this very composition and not of the whole collection. This composition is 480 centimeters, and the desk, for example, is 160 if it is available in different measures. But if we remove from this 480, we remove 160, we go down to 320. And so this part here is 320. If we remove one column, it is 64 centimeters. This part here goes down to 256. So even without the need of relating to an interior designer and build your own composition, you have a certain degree of freedom in adjusting it or customizing it to your room. So the freehand collection is built, we said, with single cabinets, and they are very filled with details. So every cabinet is worked with 45 degrees panels, and you can see what we call in Italian scuretto, which is this detail where at the end of the 45 degrees gap, there's a tiny square here that is made so that when you join together two elements, they are always perfect right beside the other. We'll see it better when we look at lower bases. And you see that the door, it has a standard thickness, but since it has this carved space here on the back, when you close it, it appears to be very thin. So when you look at the door, it appears very thin. When you open it, you realize and you perceive that it has a standard thickness, which is made in order for the door to be reliable in decades. The inside also is completely finished. So what we will discuss later, the different materials. When you choose a material for the outside, you will find it also on the structure. Only the back panel here, it is lacquered, but it also, of course, on request, it can be made in walnut if you want it. But it's also nice to have a different finish for the back. So let's review the single elements which together build up this freehand 13 composition. So we start with the telly area, the TV area. It is 192 in width because we have 96 and 96. Okay, we have these big drawers. Oh no, this is a tilting door. Let me check. I haven't checked before the video. Okay, and the drawer, as I was guessing. Okay, so we see that they have the same exact look. They look very nice together, but they have different purposes. For example, this is very convenient when you put, for example, a decoder or a DVD player or the PlayStation inside. They are 26 centimeters high and 51 centimeters deep, but you have multiple measures in this regard as well. And you see again the glass shelf. And the way the door is built is exactly the same as I showed before. So we have 96 and 96. Here we see the scuretto that I described before, and you see how it is used on a base, because there are, I would say, more contemporary looking and less design looking wall system collections where you have a cabinet and you have the top resting on top of the unit, and so you have a single top that connects the different cabinets. With this approach, you have different cabinets, each of them with their own top, and so in order to create good looks, this scuretto is built, and it's really nice. It becomes a decorative approach. So we have the boiserie here. This boiserie is very peculiar because it is 2 centimeters thick. We can't film it from here because it's in a niche, but it's 2 centimeters only. But you have a special patented mechanism in the back which allows you to move it forward or backward. And so here we see all these panels have the same thickness, but when you install them, or we install them depending on the service you get, you can decide whether to push them forward from the wall or more near to the wall, and this creates this decorative effect of panel in and panel out. And what is important to point out, I don't know if you will see it in the video, but in certain lighting conditions, the same material that you have here, you have it here, and depending on the lighting conditions, you might perceive the panels coming out being slightly different in color than the panels which are more near to the wall. This is just an effect based on the material and based on lighting. It might happen, it might not. It's one of the beauties of I would say, peculiar projects where you don't have simple and straightforward lines, but you have movement. So we have a 192 boiserie, and in the boiserie you have these metal shelves. They are very thin and they're curved in the front for 2 reasons, both so that they don't appear from the front as being so thin as they are, and also so that they are completely rounded and you don't have sharp edges, and they are a nice contrast in comparison with the materic finishes that have been used and that we can discuss later on. We move in this central part, which is 128 because it is 64 plus 64, so we have the upper cabinet that we were seeing before. Okay, this is for storage. We have this beautiful glass element with this metal structure. Okay, metal structure which has been lacquered with the same color of the glass shelves here, and we have this completely glass. These doors completely made of glass. It uses very special hinges which are attached to the glass with a peculiar chemical process, and when they're closed, they actually look really good, both from the front and from the side. Okay, and this is a dark glass called fumé. Also, the glass shelves inside is different than the other glass shelves inside the cabinets because it needs to match this darkened glass. And the back here is the same finish as the whole structure, and it has been added this light which creates a beautiful effect. So this element is 128 and 64 centimeters high. It's very peculiar, also seen from the side, because you do perceive the frame going all around and the glass on the sides as well. This is, for example, an item together with the finishes that gives a sort of a vintage approach. I would define it as being as refined vintage. So we get to the last part of this composition, which is the home office area, which is not essential for some who would create their wall system in a totally different way, and it is indeed essential for those, for example, who work from home. So we have this very desk. It's available in different widths, but this one is 160 centimeters wide. It is 51 centimeters deep, which is okay for use with a laptop. If you have more elaborate needs, it could be a bit shallow, okay, and please consider that 51 centimeters deep is okay. I'm not referring to the desk space, but I'm referring to leg space below the desk, because, for example, if I have a 70 centimeters desk, I can straighten my legs. If I have 51 centimeters desk and I'm working like this, I cannot straighten my legs fully. So it really depends on the working hours that you foresee using this desk from home, or also it depends on how tall you are, and based on that you can assess whether a 51 centimeters desk works for you or not. This is 9.6 centimeters high, I would say 10 centimeters, and it is built like most of these sort of hanging desks, where it is shallow underneath, It is built like a box, but you see I can place my hand inside because all the panels are 2 centimeters thick, but being built like a box, inside is hollow cavity. There are the supports that then I'm now touching them, you don't need to see them, but there are these metal supports which then attach to the wall and make it possible for it to be hanging to the wall and being reliable. It's really good looking. Here you see the boiserie that goes not down to the floor, but this is really optional. You could have it going down to the floor. You could not have it at all. For example, if you have special needs for cables and plugs and electricity coming through the desk, because here on the top of the desk you could have a cable cross to a hole to have the cables coming down from below to the desktop. So here we see again the boiserie that we were describing before, with the same movement, which is very interesting. Here we could cut the holes so that we have electricity and plugs and sockets and switches coming through the boiserie so that we can operate easily. And here we see this special shelf. In Italian it's called casellario, where you have this shelf with divisions, and of course you can use it as a double shelf basically with a metal structure which matches the lacquer of the glass unit. And this is probably something like it is 64 centimeters, okay. And I wanted to point out that when you have a desk and you place something on top of it, the minimum height you should consider is 60 centimeters, because 60 centimeters, or 64 in this regard, because 60 centimeters is the height that allows you to place something on top or take something, but also doesn't, I'll use a strong word, doesn't oppress you with being too low. Because if I imagine having something that goes down very low, yes, when I'm working with my laptop, I could imagine that I don't need something too much space. But in my opinion, I mean, work is hard enough. It's nice to have some sort of free space around you. So I do suggest at least 60 centimeters. Then it also depends on how deep the element you are considering is. For example, a 25 centimeter, this is 32 centimeters, a 25 centimeters shelf could be placed a bit lower and it would be fine to me. So we stand up and we see that the boiserie, here we have the same walnut that has been used on this shelf and on the partitions and on the back. And here we have the same boiserie that we have seen below and in other parts of the composition. So let's dive into the materials. There are so many finishes, so many special finishes that I can't list them all. You can review them on the portal, and if you need help, you just call us. I will talk about these materials here. Here we see walnut. I can boast that in Brianza we know how to manufacture items, furniture made in wood, and walnut is a beautiful example. We see a beautiful color, a beautiful glossiness. It's very opaque and very a matte effect, okay. And what is special is the way that how it's built, because it's all in bilia. It means that all the veneers are actually aligned. You see it both on the bases, on the tops, here on the upper cabinets. This is something to be expected from a high-end collection. Also, you must consider that in an artisanal process, something could go wrong. For example, there could be a damaged piece in the manufacturing process. And in that case, this alignment will be present, but it might not be 100% perfect, because things can happen. At the same time, this is what differentiates I would say, mid to high level item of furniture made in wood from a very high-end collection. This is, I find it beautiful, absolutely. If I look at the top here, I can see a single piece of veneer, which is 3 meters and 20 long, and it's absolutely beautiful. So let's review materials which we could define as being minor importance, but they are important, they become important for the overall perception. So we have lacquer. Here we have lacquer on metal and lacquer on MDF, the shelves, the back panels, and the desk. The finish is exactly the same, so you don't perceive a difference between MDF on metal or MDF on lacquer, and it's not that you normally touch with nails or with your fingertips your furniture, but you do perceive there are different materials only by their different sound and different temperatures. Otherwise the look is exactly the same. Lacquer is not ideal for a desk which is used for work every day, because even on a high-end lacquer it can be scratched. It's absolutely normal. So you could consider MDF compact, you could consider wood, or if you like lacquer and you work every day, you could place on top of it a very thin glass, which would protect, transparent glass, which would protect the surface, or you could have a hide leather pad, which is something which traces back to when we were actually writing on paper, but it would work well also when you place a laptop and a mouse on top of it. As to the glasses, here we were describing the fumé glass, but you have two other colors. You have the transparent one and the bronze one, so you can steer it into different directions. So we get to the boiserie. It can be add in any material and finish of the collection, because it's the founding element of this collection and composition. Here we see pietra lavica, which is lava stone, translated from Italian, and it has nothing to do with stone or lava, but it's actually an MDF panel, which is then covered with a resin, which is spread by an artisan through a brush, basically a paintbrush, a tiny paintbrush, and it is spread to create this effect, which is dark gray, but it actually takes different shades depending on the lighting, and it makes very interesting. So we've come to the end of today's product review of the FreeHand 13 composition. I hope that you liked it, and see you next time. Bye bye.